Welcome to Energy Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday the 29th of March comes to you from London. And we're running here, I'm running on Bloomberg for my exchange traded energy, and then we look at European energy from the Trayport dual system. So my chart's coming from there. So we start with Brent Crude. And interestingly, Brent's just undergoing a recovery now. In the last day, we're back above the cloud in the short term. We've got two upside targets, 52.63 and 53.21. Remembering this is my long-term charts, my weekly, my 1%, my medium-term charts, my daily, my 0.5%, and my short-term charts, my 60-minute, and my 0.1% on the 60 minutes. So this gives me a very quick overview, this template of what's going on. And we see here basically that we've got a short-term recovery going on in crude, and we are just recovering in the cloud, but we are below the cloud on the price. So this $51 level is pretty important. That's the pivot level at the moment for crude oil. But if we close back below that $50, obviously quite psychologically important. Taking a look at WTI, we've got the recovery in train here. We've only got one upside target. We have got these four downside targets hanging over us, and it's more clearly bearish below the cloud. And we've activated this downside target to $37.37. So that's a 23% fall potential. Crude is normally strong in the first half of the year, and that goes right on into the summer driving season as we know it. But the reality is this year we've got off to a very bad start for crude, and it's hard to imagine that it will now recover in the second half of the year. So we're just seeing inherent weakness there. Looking at US NatGas, back above the cloud here, just really held on to the bullishness at $3.10. We are still medium term below the cloud, but we do have upside targets now, 324, 344 on the short term chart, and 368 on the medium term chart, and 415 on the long term chart. So NatGas just needs to get back really above this $3.30 level, back and above 350, and we can be sure that we'd be into bullish territory and run from there. Heating oil looking very similar to crude oil charts as we might expect. RBOB, the real standout, has actually stayed bullish through all of this and is looking much better medium, long and short term. Taking a look at coal, coal's recovered above the cloud here. We're looking exchange traded coal here. We're seeing we're above the cloud. That's bullish in the short term, but we are bearish in the medium and long term. Emissions have looked really dire of late, below the cloud on all three levels, and €4.20 being the target. We're up very slightly this morning, and that is a recovery that we are seeing in train, but the reality is emissions still looks pretty bearish even with today's move. Looking at exchange traded gas, NBP front month, seeing a little bit of recovery here. We have got an upside target there of 39.78, which has activated a further 2% upside. We did go all the way to this 37.88 target that was given at 41.20. So interestingly, you can't ignore these targets when you do see them. But we are still bearish below the cloud in the medium and the short term. And the same with TTF, a bit of recovery going on there, 15.45 as the upside target on exchange traded TTF. Big move this morning is that the dollar is just moving back above the cloud, so we're seeing the dollar is looking pretty bullish on the medium term, just trying to recover here, and on the long-term chart we're still very bullish with bullish upside targets. The interesting thing is, will we see new short-term targets coming in here on the dollar? But that is a short-term recovery. That means the euro is weak, we're falling below the cloud. Keep an eye on your 1 minute charts here for really short-term moves, and sterling looking very weak, with a sell-off over the last day and a half, really moving back quite quickly below the cloud. And we're seeing that in the sterling euro rate, where sterling has really fallen back against the euro as well. Now taking a look at European OTC products, we start, this is a list from Trayport. You'll find this screen, by the way, in your Updata system if you're running Trayport Dual. All the codes in Trayport Dual SAS or Dual Direct are the same. If you're running that, you can go and get this from the Trayport feed library, so you'll be able to get this same layout as me, and you can download it if your firewall will allow it. And so you can then just follow me quite simply. So here I'm looking at MBP front month. Again, data coming off Trayport Dual, and we see here that we are bearish on the MBP front month as well. Very similar to obviously to the exchange traded chart. We've got this upside target as well. Looking at the prompt market, we see here as well that we're below the cloud. In fact, on that MBP chart, one thing we can do from the Trayport system, you can just literally go and open the chart. It will say update a chart in your Trayport dual system, and you can see straight away an update that opens. We can go to the 60-minute, we can go right down to the 1 minute, and we can then look at that 1 minute data for targets. Just press the T key on your Updata system, and what we see here is just a little bit more of a granular view. The 1 minute point and figure targets, really valuable, and we can actually just change the box size, and we see here we've got this target of 40 euros 40, so 3.59, so 40 pence 40, so 3.59% upside potential. Keep an eye on those 1 minute charts throughout the day. That's, if you're trading MVP. And we see here that we're bearish below the cloud there. And winter summer seasons are staging a little bit of a recovery, but of course, again, this is all very much in the short term. The trends are very much down. The prompt market the same, just teetering on the floor there, and still down this morning. Looking at TTF high cal, we see here that we are on Dutch gas just again staging a little bit of a recovery. 15.51 is the target there on OTC. Your OTC targets might be slightly different. You'll possibly have more subscribed data on your broker data, depending what data you've got on Trayport. Looking at winter summer, we see here we're bearish below the cloud, but putting in a little bit of a recovery again this morning. And hike on the prompt market we see here on the day ahead market, we've still got these downside targets hanging over us for 14.19, 13.64 and 13.93, so anywhere between 4 and 7.8% downside. On NCG we see here we reached the targets, trying to put a recovery in again this morning, but still very much below the cloud, and the same with Gazpool. Taking a look at power markets, we see German power really putting in quite a recovery yesterday, and that's continuing this morning up 0.25%. That's a bounce on the cloud. So power markets looking a lot better than gas markets. We're still bearish below the cloud in the short term here, but the interesting thing is we are finding support here on the cloud. So that is looking pretty good. So we are starting to see some recovery. Of course, what I could do is go and look at the German. So in an Updata, you just literally enter the. We can go to German baseload. This can, if we go to years, you can choose the individual contracts or the continuous contracts, all in Updata, all stitched together. If I choose the near contract, this is all venues, so it's a really good feature of Trayport. You can see here straight away we've got the data. There's the 60-minute chart. This data goes back a long way in Updata. You can see here we've got long histories. If your histories aren't very long in Trayport, you can stitch straight away to our longer OTC energy histories. And again, if I go to that 1 minute data, all of that data becomes really useful to you when you look at the 1 minute chart. It goes back months and months on power. So if we press the T key, we've got this interesting target of 30 euros 80, not quite yet activated on German power, but that's a 6.7% upside target. We go to a smaller still, and we've got 30 euros 80 again. So that move yesterday has given us a new upside target, but it's not quite activated. But German power looking really interesting there. So keep an eye out on that chart. Keep an eye on the 1 minute chart from your Trayport screen. Taking a look at quarters, not quite above the cloud here, but a similar bounce, a very similar looking chart as you might expect. And the months, we are just a little bit below, but again, looking better than the gas markets. French power, of course, after the big rise in nukes last year, we are still seeing that French power is holding on here. And interestingly, here, if we look at the quarters chart, this is still pretty bearish after that fall away, as is the months. So German power looking a lot better behaved. Dutch power has really been just holding on the cloud here. We've got quite a strong recovery here this morning in Dutch power, up 1.43%. So we are just seeing that we are getting that recovery there. And then, of course, looking at Italian power, we are just below the cloud here. So that is fairly bearish. keep an eye on those 1 minute charts if you're trading any of these energy products from your Trayport screen. Remember, if you'd like a trial of Updata running on Trayport Dual, just give us a call. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.